All right, let's go. Let's get into it. Hello, book community. Hello, fellow writers. Soon to be authors who are already published. My name is Sierra. I am from Magic Within Words, and you are on my channel. Welcome or welcome back. If you're new here, hello, hi. My name is Sierra. I just said that. On this channel, I do videos about books, book reviews. I want to lean into my spirituality, and this video is going to be a little bit different. This is more about my writing journey. Okay, so currently I'm working on 3 different projects, and so I'll be delving deeper into each one as we go along, but I'll be starting with part 1. All right, so my first project is a second chance romance. It's on a college campus, and my main character's name is Dahlia. And so Dahlia she's been through some things. She is just coming out of a mental health facility that she's been in for the past year after a suicidal attempt. And so she's navigating her life after the attempt, her toxic abusive relationship that has ended since then, and navigating grief and loss of her brother. So the story follows her and also her love interest, Leo, and how they kind of intertwine with the grief and loss of her brother, the center of the universe for both of them, and just how they really cultivate their romance again, and just how grief and loss can really impact not only the individual, but as a collective, people who have a common grief or loss experience. Some of them may cling to that other person for connection, for romance, for intimacy in any way possible. And it could be, completely, healthy, where it's just like, oh, we both had this experience and we both want to navigate our lives experiencing that loss, but I still love you and I want to work on a future with you. But then there's also aspects of it that could lead to like codependency. So the book covers a lot of that, navigating both Dahlia and Leo's perspective of their relationship, of the loss, of the grief, and their own struggles in life. And so I actually went a lot deeper into the story. And so I actually cultivated kind of like the rules, not necessarily rules, but like she's going back to school now. And so, when you have been, and I wouldn't say rejected, but when you've been kicked out of a school for any reason, like say, maybe you didn't take your finals or anything like that, if you want to go back to that school, you actually have to like reapply, like kind of state your case as to why you want to come back, how do you plan on coming back to actually have a successful year. I've had that experience before from like friends and close relationships when I went to school. And so having to reapply and kind of like plead your case in front of the school of like how you can do better, how you plan to do better. So for Dahlia, she reapplied, she gave a letter to say like how she plans on doing better. And so these are the stipulations, the rules that the school has come up for her. So her school actually gives her the letter back saying, okay, you can come back, but you have to have a tutor for the entire year, and you must maintain a grade point average of a 3.5. If it drops below that, you will not be coming back anymore. So those are kind of like her things that can kind of hold her back from being there any longer. Those are kind of like her, I guess not weaknesses, but those are her challenges. So she kind of struggles. She's going to be struggling with navigating going back to school, dealing with mental health, her relationship with her lack of a relationship, really. Her lack of a relationship with her ex, and then her lack of a relationship with her love interest. So kind of navigating both areas, but also still going through the grief and loss of her brother. So she loses her brother in a car accident, and so it's only been like 2 or 3 years since the accident, and it's still very, very fresh for her, still fresh for her family, and still fresh for Leo. So everyone is still navigating that space of that loss, because her brother was such a huge component in her life, in Leo's life, and how that all just encompasses how they are in the current day of just everyone's relationship, how everything has been strained from not only her relationship with Leo, but her relationship between her parents relationship to her, and then Leo's family's relationship to him, how literally that incident, that whole accident, just kind of like had all these connections, that everything was just like, everything was fine, everything was great. Maybe some things, obviously families have tiffs and fights, but still all the connections were pretty strong. But without Brian there, it kind of disintegrated all of those connections. Everything is weak, and it's like, everybody has burned bridges with each other at this point. Everything has come out. Things have been said that should have not been said. Feelings that are, people are feeling, characters are feeling, have kind of taken a toll on other characters too. A lot of displacement. So I really want to cover a lot of that on the psychological base of grief and loss in it. I am a psych major, so this is something that I'm really, really interested in, and I really love, in just navigating the space of how certain aspects of not childhood trauma, but just like trauma in general, how that impacts not only one person, not only it impacts like the main character, but how it impacts the environment, and how it really can just like alter not only their experiences, but everyone else's experiences and their mindsets and their relationships with each other, how it can really cultivate a new or a alternative aspect or alternative thoughts that they haven't had before, and kind of like pulls back the veil of like, oh, that's what you really felt about me, or how that's how I really felt about the situation. So a lot of that's going to be coming out. And so for Leo on his end, Leo wants to he wants to move on. He wants to be able to not get over the loss, but be able to manage it a lot better, because he still has nightmares. He's still struggling with doing the things that he loves after losing his best friend and ruining his friendship and relationship with Dahlia, and how he's navigating his family life, and how that's a huge strain between his parents and his sisters in his relationship to him, and how he tries to do different things to please them. So he has a passion for music. He has a passion for writing music. But because of everything that has happened, he wants to do what makes them happy. So it's going to be a lot of expectations, especially like in an Asian household. So I want to do more research on that, on different expectations in a minority household besides, a Black character, but from an Asian perspective, what it's like for them growing up, what are their expectations, what were their rules, what is their culture like. So I want to do more research in that. I am fascinated with Korean culture, so I really want to delve deeper into that and cultivate a character that not only represents a good character with mental health aspect related to a minority character, but specifically like the Korean aspect of just the Korean culture, and just actually having a character who represents it well. I don't want to write a character that's just like poorly written. That's just like, oh, he just happens to be Korean. Like I want him to be like a really well thought out, well-rounded character, and he's just a good character, and he just happens to be Korean, versus, oh, it's a Korean character that just been thrown into a book. Like, I'm gonna do better than that, And so, what else did I say? So yeah, I just want to be doing a lot more of like the psychology-based things. I do have my DSM book over here on my bookshelf. I'm not gonna grab it. It's behind the mirror. But I want to delve deeper into that. I want to be able to take my notes on it and try to integrate certain aspects of it without it being so like bogged down, like, oh, this is a lot of information, but kind of cultivate that kind of information into a story form, like kind of like using flashbacks as a way to portray Dahlia's previous relationship through conversations with her ex. Maybe the ex shows up later on in the book and they have certain conversations, or he still has certain behaviors that Dahlia has gotten away from, like, she's trying to get away from it, but he still has a lot of those personality traits and a lot of those behaviors of somebody who's narcissistic, someone who is very manipulative as a boyfriend, as a person in general. So I really want to delve deeper into kind of navigating the psychological aspect, but making it like really thought out and well written, versus just putting a whole bunch of different elements together and just throwing it in the book. I just want to make it very, like, well thought out. And so I'm working on the book currently. And I have actually, I've come up with a lot more stuff in detail while cleaning. I was kind of like, oh my God, that'll be great. I'm going to add that in my book. And so I just want to like briefly talk about it. But like I came up with the whole tutoring aspect like recently. I wanted to be the tutor, but at first my first thought process was a lot more like, it was very, very vague. And so I love. Okay, so the video cut off, but I was just talking about how I want to incorporate a lot of the stuff that I have now. Like, I went more in detail into how I want my characters to be portrayed, more of like Leo's backstory, because at first it was just like very like Leo's a good guy, but I'm like, let's make him a little bit more complex. Let's make it that he's not a good guy, but he wants to be better. So really trying to make my characters like very, very well thought out. Obviously they have their flaws, but I just want it to be a lot more detailed, and it flows very well, and everything like makes sense as characters are developed very well. And I just want it to be a lot more detailed and really have them really go on the journey of their relationship and their previous relationship, and just navigating the space in general of being forced, pretty much, the little bit of forced proximity, because he has to tutor her, or at least she has to have a tutor for the whole year. So kind of navigating the fact of like, does she want him to be her tutor for the entire year? What is there any issues or anything, challenges that come up that makes her rethink everything of him being her tutor, of their history, her relationship with her family, relationship with his family, the relationship with her ex. So it's probably going to be a long book. It's probably going to be a really long book, but I really want to just like really create these characters to be like really thought out, and I love them already. It's just going to be a little bit longer than I want to be. Okay, so my next one. By the way, I have created playlists for all my stories. I always start with a playlist. A song at least that has inspired me to write the book. So each story has their own playlist. Let's just start there. But with this one is about a girl named Octavia. So she lives in a dystopian, kind of like a fantasy area where her people in her society are marked as either labeled or unlabeled. So unlabeled people are like restaurant workers, your day-to-day blue-collar workers, and her labeled people in her society are more of the people that are in specific fields like law, education, medicine, like those kind of big fields that we see as like, the highest paying fields, in our society. Those are those who are labeled. They're more important. They're a lot more valuable than those who are unlabeled. And so she is actually at her like redetermination meeting in front of the administration. The administration navigates all applications, all the students who are in any field, any program. So they navigate all of the students there, and they do like redetermination meetings. They do initial meetings, and they're the ones that kind of send people to their programs and, try to like solidify dates of when they start and, that kind of thing. So kind of like how it is like if you apply for college here. And so at her redetermination meeting, they reject her. She's been in the education program for like 2 years now, and she believes that she's like, she's doing well. She's trying to like keep her head down, just follow the rules of her society, because her personality is very different from following the rules. So she's very rebellious. She has a smart mouth. She can be manipulative. She can be a lot to handle. And so now she's trying to put her head down and focus on becoming part of the society and really following the rules after her uncle, who gets marked as unlabeled, ends up dead. So she doesn't want to be like him. They were really, really close. Like, when I say close, like best friends. Like, that's the one person in her family that has loved her and given her attention. But now that he's dead, she's trying to be like, oh, I can't act like that anymore because their personalities are so similar. So now she's just trying to focus. And now that she's being rejected from her program, she's very much like in an anxiety induced mindset of like, I need to find another program. I cannot be marked unlabeled or I will end up dead. Like very extreme. And so she applies for all these different programs and all of them are rejecting her. She tries to get her 2 friends to help her, but things fall through with that. And the only program that accepts her is a program she never applied for, and that is the Aggression and Honor program. And in Aggression and Honor, it is an elite program. It is part of the labeled society. But there are a lot of nuances with that society because Aggression and Honor, I kind of boiled it all into one, is like military, police officers, that type of field, like how we have now. And so it can be kind of nuanced. Like there are some where you're like, oh yeah, this is the best police officer that we have. Everything's great. They run a really good area. There's no crime here. But then there are those that are, very corrupt. And so it's very nuanced in that area. And so it's always deemed as like, yeah, it's an important field, but we don't like them. We don't like certain people there. And so it kind of like demonizes the program as a whole. Like, like one bad apple in a batch. It kind of ruins it for everybody. So that kind of mindset. And so now she doesn't want to be part of the group because that's where her uncle was in. And now she's pissed because that's the only program that has accepted her. So she has no choice but to follow through with the trainings and actually being in that program. Because if she doesn't, her alternative option is death, essentially. And while all of this is going on of her just navigating the space, there are rumors, there are people going around talking about the fact that there are unlabeled people missing. The labeled people don't really care about the unlabeled people, but there are some that are very much into keeping track of them. And there are some that are very rebellious and, they want to know, they want to stay updated, they care for them. And so there are some people just like in the society who are like talking about unlabeled people going missing, and while Octavia is very focused in her own world. So it's very much like there's stuff behind the scenes that's coming up to her and coming up to her experiences. And so while she's in Aggression and Honor, she's in there with her former best friend from back when she was younger, and she was very much in her rebellious personality, very much herself. So her friend, Zion, is pissed off at her. Now they no longer like each other. They're enemies. And he makes it very hard for her to navigate the space. Every now and then he'll have a moment where he tries to understand her, but still he still holds a big grudge against her for pretty much abandoning him from his side of things. He's been through a lot with his family. There's going to be a lot more in detail of his family and what he goes through too. But they're very much on the outs. And so while she's navigating this new life in Aggression and Honor, certain things start to creep up too. So like a lot of secrets about her uncle start to come up, as there's possibly a secret society within Aggression and Honor that's very opposed to the administration and Congress that's trying to tear it down, and she doesn't understand why. So she kind of learns more about that and how her uncle is kind of related to what goes on in this secret society and what's going on with the people that are missing. That's like the best way I can explain it vaguely without giving too much detail. And then so it's just navigating that space of a lot of action-based situations that are leading her to question if she should follow the rules or should she embrace who she truly is. And so it navigates that kind of like a lot of internal struggle, emotional struggle, personality struggle of becoming true to who you are versus what society wants you to become. And I put some details in there too of just like different themes. And so where I put it. So there's going to be like a lot of morally gray characters, but there's going to be a clear villain at the very end. And I actually played with the idea of this being like a prequel to another story of like understanding Octavia's backstory and who she becomes later on. But that's just something that I played with. I'm not sure. We gotta wait to see. But I think it'll be a very interesting backstory if I go ahead and do a different book from the society, or at least from a few years later in the society. So that's just something that I'm navigating. But yeah, that book is going to be a lot more detailed. I actually wrote already 100 pages, but I put it on the back burner because my first project, the project that I first talked about, has been going a lot more in detail. I've been playing with the characters, really coming up with their backstory more. So this one has been taken a little bit back burner, but I'm going to go back and, really flesh it out, try to make it less action-based at the beginning, and try to incorporate a little bit more of like her internal struggle with everything going on, and her kind of like sidestepping between, should I follow the rules or should I be myself? Should I follow the rules? Should I be myself? While also uncovering a lot of the secrets. All right, before I go into the last one, I was just talking about the secrets that come out in the second project. But we're gonna go ahead and jump into my last one. And my last one is like a whodunit with dark academia vibes. And so it follows my main character. I forgot her name. I wrote this I started it like 2.5 years ago. And it was on Microsoft Word. But since then, I've lost access to it because I forgot to pay for it. Whatever. I forgot to pay, didn't want to pay, something like that. But ever since then, I don't have a copy of it, really. I mean, I can see it, but I can't log into it. And I can't see my main character's name. I only wrote like a page and a half into it, so I'm not really stressed about it. But I'll be coming up with a new name for her. But it follows my main character who has lost her dad in the past year. So another story about like grief and loss. Patterns. They come in patterns. And so her and her mother, they moved to the town that he was from, and she goes to the school that he went to. And as she gets there, she finds out that a student has been murdered. So, there's obviously like a whole like plaque, picture or something up about the student, and she feels a pull to that student and wanting to figure out what happened to her. And so with her like ragtag team of mostly frenemies that she's made at the beginning of the story, they start to uncover what actually happened to the student, but also uncovering the secrets of the school and her dad's tie to the murder. So yeah, that's the vaguest answer I can give, but also she navigates the secrets of his family too. So it's a lot of secrets, not only from the school, the secrets of the student's murder, the secrets of her dad's past that she never learned about because he wasn't really in her life like that. He was there to like visit when he wasn't on the road because he was a successful musician. He was in a band, but he wasn't there day to day. But covering his past and covering the past of his family as she starts to meet all of his family members at their estates and everything like that, and how everything kind of like just boils up into like a hot mess. But I came up with this idea, like I said, like 2 or 3 years ago. I loved it. I was like, oh yes, this is gonna be a good story. But things happen. I started playing Sims, so I got distracted, and I want to get back into it and just creating the world a lot more deeper. I do actually want to have my main character actually be bisexual, so I need to do that research of just creating a bisexual character from a straight person myself, and just making sure I create a character that's very well thought out, not stereotypical, and making sure that the love interest actually, is very well thought out too. And I just want to make good characters. I just want to make good characters in these books overall. I'm kind of distracted. I have a visitor. My auntie's dog, Layla. Hey, girl. So yeah, I just want to make these characters really fleshed out and really well thought out. Have detailed plans for each of these stories and the things that they navigate. So I know I need to like do a whole like 3-act breakdown. I actually follow Abby Emmons, and she does a lot of videos on creating like the most compelling story, creating compelling characters, how to write like different acts in your story, different struggles like that. So Abby Emmons. I also watch Alexa Dunn's videos. A lot of her videos are older. She's not that much on YouTube anymore, but I like to follow them and listen to the videos as I'm like writing my books or creating these worlds. I also did a writer's retreat last year in December. That was my Christmas gift to myself. And so I just got a lot of notes from there too, of just writing and also creating the best blurbs and the best way to contact literary agents and how to do that whole process too, as well as like, you know, when I get towards the end half of writing the book and finding like I want to find beta readers. It's a process. It's a huge process, but I want to start out with my first project, really get that solidified first, hopefully get a literary agent, hopefully get that book published before I start putting out a lot more, like working on more and more ideas, because I do have a whole Google Doc of other book ideas that I've come up with like at midnight, like right before I go to sleep. There's other stories I come up with, and I'm just like, oh, I'm gonna put it in my phone. Like I literally have like 3 or 4 notes on different stories, but I'm not gonna mess with those right now while I have 3 projects that I'm working on. But yeah, I mean, those are the projects that I'm working on. I would love to hear from you all about what you're working on. Maybe your main characters, maybe a song that kind of represents your story, represents a character. Just something about the books that you're writing, or maybe a book that you're reading that you would really love to see like more established. If you want to see like, if you want to read like a sequel of that book, or maybe if you want to write fan fiction on it. I mean, that's how I started out writing with my first book. It was just throwing random stuff in there. I'll put it somewhere in my bio or link it up at the top of my cringy read with me for my first book. But I mean, with the writing process, it's a lot to go through, but I love it. I love writing, and I just want to create amazing books for people to really love and enjoy. So hopefully I'm able to do that eventually. But I do have the first story that I actually wrote. I already have it on Kindle, so you can check that. It's called The Memories I Hold. I'll put that link in the description. You can check it out. You can read it for free if you want to buy it. Yay, cool. It's only $6. I try not to do it, like try to price it any higher than that, because it's my first story that I actually like wrote and completed, edited it, had a few people read it before. It's just my first book that I really wanted to put out there. So hopefully you guys want to check it out, read it. And trust me, that was my first one, so don't don't expect much. But also just know that there's gonna be books that are gonna be a lot better in the future. If they do become published. Just a dream, just a hope. I kind of rambled on there at the end, but I was just talking about my books and just wanting to create wonderful stories. But hey, if you like this video, be sure to like the video, like, comment, subscribe, check out my blog, find me. You can check me out on Instagram, on Threads. I'll put everything in the description box below. And yeah, I mean, stay tuned. I have more videos coming out. So see you then. Until then, stay magical. Bye.